What does a good teacher do?
I believe a good teacher is a teacher that puts all the effort that he can or she can. Because sometimes I feel like the teacher is not really putting all the effort that he could or she could. Like, I would expect more from my teachers. Like, some cases and some cases, but sometimes I feel like they can be more creative, you know? So another key point is when a teacher is expecting a lot from me, so when I feel like the teacher has certain expectations, then that would encourage me to live up to those expectations.
Quick follow-up question. What gives you a sense if a teacher is not putting all of his or her effort into a class?
I would notice the difference between a class and another class. Like, I would say, oh, she taught me last month, there was a class last month where she taught us in a more creative way, in a way that we all could enjoy.
Now, that's the second time you've used the word creative. What I hear you saying, and I'm checking for understanding here, is that more effort equals a more creative lesson. Is that a fair summary?
Possibly, I would say.
Okay, I'm not
because sometimes the teachers, they just go with a certain routine. They don't even try to break that routine.
Okay. Yeah. That's helpful. So more effort equals a more varied routine.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
I want to comment on something that she said. Sometimes you can't really blame the teachers because they have a fixed timetable and they have to finish before a specific schedule. So there isn't really much that they can do. Although we expect a lot of them, we should also think of them. And I'd expect my teacher actually to be more engaged with the students. It's not just she comes in and she teaches the lesson and she's out and she doesn't have anything to do with us. You can't teach anyone a lesson unless you really know that person. If you don't know that person, then it's basically just someone blabbering all the time and you're just listening, and sometimes after 15 minutes your concentration goes off, and that's what you got from the teacher, 15 minutes.
Okay, I really agree with that girl who said that basically a good teacher transforms you. That's the most important thing. I think that a good teacher will inspire you. And I'm in a case like that where my entire math class has been inspired by our teacher to a degree that all of us are pursuing maths or math-intensive subjects at university now. And I also agree with Sumaya when she said that a good teacher pushes you and challenges you and extends what you want, what you learn beyond the syllabus instead of sticking to something that will pass the exam but will not help you in the future.
First of all, for a teacher to be a teacher, he needs to have a good deep background about the subject he's teaching. And he has to love the subject he is teaching as well. But not only the teacher should have knowledge about what he's teaching, but he should know how to treat and act with students. Because different students have or like different type of treating or receiving information. So some teachers actually know how to teach their students, know how to get to them, and know how to inspire them. And most importantly, a smile on the teacher's face will always make the class easier.
So, Ferris, a quick follow-up question. If I heard you right, you mentioned three different things. A teacher who really knows their content, a teacher who loves their subject, and a teacher who's aware of how different students learn. Is that a right summary? If you were to pick just one that was most important, what would it be?
Okay. Between a teacher who knows about his subject, loves his subject, and knows how to act with different students. I think most importantly in this way, for a teacher is to know what he's teaching his students, because this is his main job. But even though I may choose this as the most important factor, I think you can't separate them from each other. A teacher should love his subject to know more about it, and should know how to treat students in order to be a teacher for that matter.
Wonderful. Thank you for not letting me give an easy question to you. All right, we have the last question now. If there was one thing that could be changed in your school to improve learning for all students, what would that one thing be?
for me, I think that we should create the culture of reading in our schools.
Culture of what? I'm sorry.
Culture of reading.
Reading.
Reading, yeah.
Reading.
Because we all know that reading is the key to knowledge, and school is a symbol of education and knowledge. It's quite a funny thing. If I take out my book and I read it, you know, like not a textbook, like a novel or anything, if I take it out during break time, everyone would think that's such a weird thing. You know, it's not very common for people to read in school. So, I mean, to read something besides the textbooks. So I think that we should really create that reading culture inside schools. So onwards, you know, the reading culture would be there. And
do you have an idea about something schools can do to create that reading culture?
For example, we can have reading programs. We don't have like a certain number of books that we have to read in order to graduate, say.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
In my opinion, what should be changed in schools, actually in government schools specifically, because in private schools they already do so, is that they should separate different levels of students, like A students, B students, C students, in different classes. Because what happens is that when you mix the students, although it has good points, like an A-level student could improve or help a B-level student and so on, but what happens is that an A-level student, putting him in a mixture with different levels will hinder his skills and will not give him way to improve beyond what he knows. While if you put him in a different class and teach him a higher and advanced subject, that would be way better. And for the B students, C students, and so on, it's always great to go over the basics and the startups of the subject before going deep, so they don't get lost, and so on.
Curiosity, it's a thing that we all have, and it's a thing that all students have. And the thing is, when students ask questions, and then the teacher goes on and she's like, well, I don't have time for this, or you're going to take that next year, or just wait, I'm coming to that point. It kind of lets them down. I mean, I've asked many questions. It's like, okay, you're too young for that. We'll probably come to that in the following years. And I have to go and search for the internet for the kind of information that I want. But I want my teacher, whenever I ask a question, at least she could tell me, come in the break, I'll explain it to you. Even if it's information that's bigger than my age, I'd still like to know it.
Wonderful. Wonderfully said. So I'm going to come back and ask each one of the students for their final reflections based on all of the comments we've heard so far from students. But before I do that, I want to turn to my two friends and colleagues here and invite each one of them to tell us a little bit about the context in which we heard your students, Chicago and Johannesburg, and some of the things that you've heard students talk about, and what stood out for you in those kinds of comments.
Well, one of the things that I think we're hearing from everybody is that teachers are motivators. And the elementary is a little bit different than when I hear from these more mature students. You talk about the teacher being passionate for the content and that triggers you. But I think the most important element for younger children is the teachers care about them. And that caring is often something that they realize only at school. I often tell my teachers that be nice to your children, you might be the only one that's nice to them all day. Our children come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and a teacher is a very powerful person in their life. And when Johnny comes in and you say, gee, Johnny, I love your shirt, it's so nice, maybe all he ever hears at home is be quiet and go to your room. So the passion for learning comes in a myriad of ways.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to these students, and it's very impressive to see the quality of students growing up in Bahrain. And it's really been incredible to hear from you. I think some of the things that we've heard that are common across these students all over the world, it's amazing how much every human being needs a vision and a goal, something that they're aspiring towards, and that if people have that goal and that search for meaning, they will be able to go a lot further if they understand the context and the meaning with which they're doing something. And I heard students saying that wonderful student in France, that funny young guy saying, that he just wants to do good. He wants to be part of everything. He wants to make a difference. But we even heard the students here in Bahrain saying, I want to serve my society. I want to serve my country. I want to serve humanity. I think that theme was coming through. And this is very important because a lot of schools are not allowing young people that opportunity to have a vision that is meaningful to them and noble to them and something that they feel my life is worth living and I want to be here every day. We heard certainly the importance of the basics in education. So I think the students have great clarity and wisdom. There has to be those basics, the mathematics skills, the language skills, etc. But over and above that, they were searching for things such as values and caring and continual learning and growth. And again, this is very important, is that if our education systems are unidimensional and it's purely intellectual-based education, we're going to end up with people who are just unfulfilled and unhappy. And something that really worried me that one of the Bahraini students said, which is exactly what happens in South Africa in spades, is students get demotivated in high school, they think education's not for me, and they drop out. And we have, hundreds of millions of people around the world who've dropped out of school. They end up in no man's land, and that can be laid at the door of educators who teach in these completely unidimensional ways. I think just the last few comments. The one is this issue of connectedness and a sense of locating themselves. If students can locate themselves and relate all knowledge to themselves and see how it is useful, and then how it connects them to this subject and to the rest of society, this is a common theme that is very important. So the students who are not enjoying school is where there's a great disconnectedness from their subjects. Another theme that I think was interesting is this theme about huge demands. The student in France was saying, they're there from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock at night, how much stress it is, all these marks and tests and so on. And I think that this is coming across, is how are schools helping young people deal with stress and deal with all these demands that they have to cope with every day. And then just lastly, in the context of some of the South African students, which we deal with, is we have very, very strong teacher unions, and teachers will just go on strike, and it's probably similar in France as well and some other countries, but teachers will just go on strike for 1 month. And then the students are seeing their teachers do this, and so that's why one of the students was talking about effective systems in education. The strikes, the unions, etc. There's an unwritten curriculum. That's what the students are really learning. They're there to learn. Are the teachers there to really teach? And so this thing that every student is looking for is a teacher that cares for them, really wants to be there, is committed to teaching and to inspiring them to greater heights. So I think those are some common themes that certainly we can see around the world.
Thank you. Did you care to add anything?
I think everybody was talking about teamwork and the importance of teamwork, and there's something called today collective intelligence. It isn't just what you as individuals think, but when you work on a team, there's a whole different body of knowledge that's created, and that is paramount in the 21st century. We're talking about technology today, and it still comes back to the teacher. And you didn't talk about technology very much. It's those teachers that really drive you. And role models, we heard about role models, that parents are certainly an important influence, perhaps an aunt or an uncle, an older brother or sister. But the teachers keep coming back into that picture as well. That teacher always affects you. So we can never lose sight of the fact how much we need to have our teachers.
Thank you.
I love the one student that, I think it was one of mine, that talked about his ideas were important, that they could affect the world. And I thought that was one of grandeur, but that even an 8th grade student knows that he's important and could affect society and who knows what.
All right, audience, it's your turn. What questions do you have for our students? Ask them a question. Where's the mic? Do we have a mic coming down? There it is. Raise your hand if you'd like to ask the students a question.
Research shows that the person that raises their hand first has the highest self-esteem.
My name is Chris. I'm from Australia, but I've been teaching in Kuwait for the last 6 years. And my question is not to embarrass you, but to find out what your teachers are telling you. We are halfway through the decade of education for sustainable development. And I'm wondering whether there has been any discussion in the classroom about what sustainable development is to you, and whether there has been any response by students in your school.
Anyone care to answer that? Is the answer simply no? Did you, yeah?
Okay, basically, sustainable development's not only in the classroom, but it's been ingrained in all our lessons, all our subjects anyway. But more than that, we've got teachers who are very passionate about the subject, teachers and students who formed societies, formed groups that, for example, we have a group called the Green Machine trying to increase recycling and increasing ways that can be help make Bahrain and in a larger context the world a more sustainable place.
Thank you. Now, do I recall, Feras, that you're in a private school? Is that correct? And the others of you are all in public schools. Is that right? For the three of you who are in public school, are there conversations about sustainable development in your classes, lessons, extracurricular activities, anything?
Yeah, actually, we have had discussions about that.
Okay.
But probably maybe not as elaborative as private schools.
Okay, thank you. Some more questions from the audience, please.
Hi, my name is Kumar Guru from India. It's just for my own benefit. I just want to know how aspirational are students from Bahrain, and if each one of you could give a one-word answer as to, for your higher education, if there was a country that you would go to, and that includes Bahrain, where would you choose your, undergraduate or graduate studies? Thank you.
Before they answer, I need to tell you something about this extraordinary panel of students that I had not mentioned earlier, and please help me if I don't get the exact phrase right. Are you Crown Prince Scholars? Is that the correct? Okay. So would you explain to the audience, first of all, what does that extraordinary honor mean? What benefits do you derive from that? And then answer the gentleman's question, please.
Okay, first of all, I think we all are honored to be one of the Crown Prince Scholarship Program candidates. The program does not only, 60 students participate in this program, and 10 of them are selected to go study overseas. But it's not just that in the program. The program is a whole different thing, because once you enter this program, you come out a different person. You get to attend to courses like leadership courses, action learning courses. They engage you into society. They teach you how to be helpful to your community, how to act in different situations, and how to work in a team specifically. Because when you leave school and go to university and then to your job, to your career, you don't just need knowledge. You need to have, how to act practically in life. You need to know how to work with other people. You need to know how to present, and so many other things. So I'm really proud to say that I'm one of the Crown Prince Scholarship candidates.
Wonderful, thank you. Saeed, now each one of you, quickly answer the question that was asked. You could go anywhere for post-secondary. Where would you go? And perhaps maybe a sentence about why.
Okay, right now I'm actually applying all over the world, but I'm hoping, and I would love to go to the United States to study, basically because of the reputation of the universities, and more than that, because of the actual development of the curriculums and of the, basically because you don't find anywhere else in the world that's going to be as rapidly changing in terms of its education system as in the United States at a higher level.
Hopefully, I'm applying in Canada and USA, and probably I would prefer going to Canada because I've been there before, and I really liked how the life is there. And also, in terms of education, hopefully I want to get into the University of Toronto, which is one of the top schools in Canada.
I'll probably be applying to the US, and again, it's the reputation and the curriculum they have there. But I'd also add that I'll go there, I'll study, I'll do my best, but again, I'll come back and help this country.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Saeed.
Yeah, I'm thinking about applying in the US or the UK, just like my colleague said, for the reputation they have. And because I know that going there for in their strong universities and high education, I know that I will return to Bahrain with a better knowledge that I can use to benefit my country.
Thank you. We had a question right here in the front in the second row. Can we have the mic here, please?
I'd like how these students are using technologies to advance their knowledge and understanding of their studies.
So the question is, how are you using technologies? I heard you talk about when a question wasn't answered by a teacher, you'd go on the internet and find the answer. Tell us more.
Is it in school or just at home?
Let's say in your life. How about that? And then tell us whether it's school or home.
Internet, of course. There's lots of books that you can download, lots of e-books, and then you can... So since we're already talking about technology, I won't say buying books, but I've downloaded lots of maths books from the internet, and they were really helpful.
Now, how much of the time are you using the internet at home versus at school?
Really, comparatively very less, because in the internet that you use at school, you use for definite purposes. If a teacher asks you to go surf for it, for some specific information. Otherwise, you just use the computers and they explain something on the computer.
Yeah.
It's not really using internet.
Yeah, thank you. How about for each of the rest of you? Technology in your lives for learning.
Definitely, like Muna said, using the internet. Also, maybe...
Now, if I could interrupt for a minute for clarification, what do you use the internet for most frequently?
Checking emails, Facebook.
Okay. Quick question.
Yes.
How many of you, raise your hands, are you on Facebook? Raise your hands. That would be 4 for 4. Raise your hands if you're on Facebook in the audience. Okay, we have a community here. Very good. We'll check in with each other later.
Also, you have the applications on your iPhone. So I downloaded one of the applications to learn French. So I use that a lot. Yes.
An iPhone app on your phone to learn French.
Yes.
Comment allez-vous? Not fair. That's, by the way, all the French I know.
Ça va bien, merci.
Ah, but she did! No, good for her! Good for her. Well done, well done. Bon.
Okay, basically, again, of course, the internet, basically for any sort of reference, any sort of, even social networking sites to, like, contact my friends and to discuss any work we have and to work together, because right now, I don't think we are in an environment where we can just study alone. We have to interact with other people, even around the world, to develop.
Internet itself is a whole world. So it's pretty hard to talk about it, but internet is the main thing we go to find anything we want. And lately, in our schools, some teachers have been giving us tests through the internet, and others are giving us lessons and homeworks. And one of the most important things in the internet itself is communicating with the classmates, because it's pretty hard to meet every day with your friends in order to discuss homeworks, tests, or anything. So the first thing we do when we go home is that we go and chat or talk about anything we have. So it's pretty much helping us.
So teamwork on the internet for learning. I've asked my four wonderful and distinguished young friends here to kind of reflect on the conversation this afternoon, both what they heard on the tapes and what we've been talking about. And if there was one important takeaway, one important standout point that you really hoped adults would kind of ponder and think about in terms of improving schools and teaching and learning, one thing that you would like to leave us with, what would that one thing be? Yeah, I'm afraid we only have time for just one each.
Okay, I think that the most important thing we need to take away from this session and from the entire conference and from all the videos is that we need to interact with each other and we need to see what other people think, and that can be developed in terms of even sessions like this too, schools interacting with each other, public, private, boys, girls, and that's something that's in the conference program that's been very, very different and very good for everyone involved.
What I think is most important to get from this session is that in anything you do in life, there are three things that you have to think of. There is you, there is the others, and the tools to do it. I wouldn't say the lack of any of these three factors would lead to impossible doing whatever you're planning to do. But if you're doing the thing alone, it's going to take a lot of hard work and determination. While if you get the help and support from others, it's going to be a lot easier and it's going to open a lot of doors for you. And even for those who don't believe in themselves, they just need the person to motivate them, to show them what they really are. So I think what we should take from this session is that we don't just think about ourselves. We do the jobs we have to do, and we try to support and teach others what they have to do in order to build a better community and to improve.
If you want to improve education, you have three categories that you want to improve. You want to improve the teachers, you want to improve the students, and you want to improve the curriculum. And therefore, I can't exactly say one point because it's made of three sectors. And I think the most important thing is never judge your students by their marks, because I have extraordinary